Welcome to Speaker Hub, everyone. I'm sitting in for Ron Story Jr., who's on the call. This is what we do every day from 12 p.m., 3 p.m., and 7 p.m. We have some of the regulars on here as we usually do at the 7 p.m. hour, but there'll be some more guests that come in. But if you're not here, don't worry about it. It's recorded, and you're going to get some nuggets that you can take away to expand your business, not just speaking business, your business overall. So we learned very quickly, even though it's called Speaker Hub, that we don't necessarily focus on the speaking part only. You have intellectual property, which means products and services, as well as speaking. So we're going to teach you how to multiply the value of that, kind of multiply the value of that to make you a success at every level out there. So stay tuned. I'm gonna turn it over to Ron Story.
No, I quit. You can have it, bro. That's done. That's it. That's it. I'm retired. I don't need to say nothing, man. Go ahead. What's the topic today, Bart? What are we talking about, man?
I don't have that one yet. But I would say this, and for people to think about their products and services, you kind of been talking about here for the last couple of weeks, perhaps you'll sprinkle it in. I had a call with Chantel probably a couple of weeks ago now, right before the book came out on that Friday. And because I've been hearing all the media and everything that she's doing, and I have like 3 different things that I'm doing over here. It's not just the speaking part. And I was interested in the media for one of those other things. So anyway, I pitch all over the place and look at different venues or avenues to pitch in. It's not just, 1 or 2 things or whatever. It's like the audience overall. And then I stumbled upon crime. I was like, hey, wait a minute, Bart, your book is a true crime story. So I started pitching it there. So I have all kinds of podcasts and interests lined up in that crime space because the book is a true crime. So I had to go back in and develop a different pitch for that. So there's a pitch for leadership insecurity, there's a pitch for academia, different types of things that I have set up. But I had to create one for the crime piece and really the story. Unlike Chantel, my book came out 15 years ago. No one even knew what a podcast was. So because the incident in the book is, to me, as relevant now as it was the incident in the book happened 22 years ago, but that incident is as relevant now as it was 22 years ago. And because of that, it makes the book still relevant because the strategies to mitigate a threat is in the books. So I just started focusing on that as well. So it's kind of twofold. I mean, I'm pitching that to go back and look at which one was this. Is there focused crime? Because that's a different talk. If it's not, then it's security, and that's a different talk. So it's been kind of fun. I mean, this whole thing has been fun, but I guess my point to all this is look at what you have. I remember Kevin talking about his book and it's been so long or whatever, but get that sucker out, dust it off. The world doesn't know about your book.
No, I think you hit it right on the head. I mean, so that here, I want to share this because I think it's something, what you talked about is what we describe all the time. And, hooks. There's a lot of different hooks to get into your story, right? Whether it's from the true crime point of view, from the security point of view, from the business point of view, you have to understand that there are different reasons for you to tell the same story, just from a different perspective, right? And our flexibility of knowing how does what I do relate to this group of folks? And we hear it all the time with people talk about niching. And what they're basically saying is, I only got one hook, right? And it's like, no, you got a lot of hooks. Like this works for men, this works for young men, old men, Black men, white men, Asian, Latino, and you just got to know how they get into the story. It may work for women, older women, whatever. But if you don't know the hook that gets them into what you do, you miss that entire audience, right? So I hear people say, "Oh man, there's not a lot of people in the that I could talk to about what I do," and I'm like, "No, you just got to broaden it out a bit." And true crime was a broadening of Bart's space, right? And we'll be surprised how wide we can go. But I think sometimes we niche ourselves into a corner because nobody has ever taught us how to develop the hooks to get in. Does that make sense? Like, I mean, you can run if we get into football, I mean, there's a lot of ways to run a running play. You can spread the defense out, you can bring them in, and then you still the quarterback handed the ball to the running back, right? You're just disguising how you got into it, right? And I think that that's one of the biggest um, versatilities that you learn the more and more you tell your story. One of the things that I wanted to talk about today was, how do you develop these different personalities of yourself? Like your backstory, right? I call it the origin story. Well, what are your 10 parables? What are the stories that you tell all the time, right? No matter what podcast you go on, we know certain things. Where was Jay-Z born? Brooklyn. What projects did he grow up in? The Marcy projects. What did he do before he was a rapper? He was a drug dealer. Who's his wife? Beyonce, right? He got all of these stories that he tells us over and over and over that develops who he is. We even know his character flaws, like selling drugs or, you know, holding a grudge, right? He has polarity. You watch everybody else that's on stage as a rapper, they are animated and moving around. He wears a blue Yankee hat, a black t-shirt, and some jeans every time he's on stage. He never wears anything different. So he has this total opposite of what everyone else is doing, right? So those are the elements that make you who you are. But then how do people identify you? Are you the leader? Are you the adventurer? Are you the reporter? Are you the hero that didn't really want the job? A lot of cases, we're all four of them, right? As the head of Speaker Up, I'm the leader, right? But I'm also fighting against all the negative images and the negative music, right? So I'm kind of the crusader. But then I give you a report of what my clients did and what made it work for them with the speaker flywheel, right? But now I got to be the reluctant hero out front, being the champion speaker for the people who never got paid a lot up front. Do you see how we have all of these different kind of elements of who we are that make us who we are, right? But then there's the storylines, right? Us versus them. I have no problem with that one. That's the story of my life. I love a good enemy, before and after. This is how it was beforehand. Here's how it was afterwards. All of these things are things that we need to like kind of itemize out. Well, what's my backstory? What are the things I'm going to tell all the time? What's my negative thing? Right? I can't be perfect. Right? So one of my character flaws with Speaker Up was I wasn't a speaker by trade. I don't mind talking about that. Yo, I lost. I made a bunch of mistakes. I did this stupid stuff, and this is what the mistake that I made. Okay, who cares? That doesn't stop me from still leading those who want to follow. Is this fair, Chantel?
Yeah.
So we call this the attractive character because it's not the perfect character. It's the flaws in the leader that makes them human, right? Batman would be even better. All of the stuff that the dude in the garage make for Batman, he can't make him a gun, right? But Batman don't want a gun. That's his whole thing. He against guns. So he do everything without a gun, right? Well, you think of Spider-Man. Spider-Man, he got his flaws. Let's bring those up. Watch this, right? Superheroes, strengths, and weaknesses. See if I can pull this up here. Let's see if they got them on here. Here we go. I want to buy superhero though. I don't want just half of them. Show me. Here we go. Marvel and DC characters weakness. I don't know none of these people. Aquaman, Ant-Man, Bane, Batman. Here we go. Despite his formidable abilities, Batman has several weaknesses. One of his significant weaknesses is his lack of superhuman abilities, making him vulnerable to opponents who pose enhanced strength, speed, and durability. Batman's reliance on gadgets and technology can leave him vulnerable if his equipment is damaged or malfunctioning. His tendency to work alone can also make him vulnerable to being overwhelmed by larger groups of opponents. Finally, his moral code and aversion to killing can put him at a disadvantage against opponents who have no restrictions, right? Nobody says Batman is terrible because he don't use guns and he won't kill nobody. No, that's just his strength. That's his thing. A pit bull is no different than a Pekingese. They got different strengths and weaknesses, right? It's like they're both dogs, but they have, a German Shepherd and a Rottweiler, different strengths and weaknesses, right? Black Panther. Black Panther is a Marvel character known for his incredible physical prowess, intellect, and technological prowess. Despite his impressive abilities, Black Panther has several weaknesses. One of his significant weaknesses is his vulnerability to certain types of energy attacks, such as sonic or ultramagnetic waves, which can interfere with his suit's technological functions and leave him disoriented and weakened. Additionally, Black Panther's tendency to rely on his suit's advanced technology can make him vulnerable to opponents who can disrupt or disable his equipment. His sense of honor and duty can also be exploited by opponents who can manipulate him or deceive him emotionally. Finally, Black Panther's position as the king of Wakanda can leave him vulnerable to political or social pressures that can interfere with his decision making and put him at odds with other heroes. Right? Again, no matter how good we like him, he still had weaknesses. Right? So I just think it's cool because sometimes we think we got to be perfect. Right? Oh man, I can't let him see me like this. One of the things that I'm very conscious of is that I have no problem quoting the Bible and cussing 2 sentences later. Deal with it. I mean, it is what it is. Those words mean nothing in Spanish to me. So it's like they only matter to our English speaking audience. To my Spanish speaking audience, they have no clue what we're talking about. What are you gonna say, Bart? Go
I
ahead.
was gonna say it's actually 2 words later, not 2 whole sentences.
What's that? Oh, 2 words later. Oh yeah, yeah.
Heard you.
I get about 2 sentences in.
I've heard it in the same sentence before.
Hey, it's part of it, right? If Jesus died for my sins, he could excuse a few words, so he good. I believe he bigger than that, right? So, but moral of the story is that you have this shiny armor and a couple of dents, and those dents let people know I've been to battle. Does that make sense? It lets you know, yo, I've sent some bad pitches too. I've been cussed out pitching people. I've been praised pitching people. But over the long run, I've gotten what I wanted because I'm not pitching to get what Chantel wants. My pitches don't affect Chantel's goals at all. I'm pitching for my own goals. I'm out here talking on the camera and trying to help people for myself. Even though I want y'all to win, it's really selfish because I want the credit for when you win. I want to be able to say the tool that I worked helped. The tool that I created helped you to get to where you're trying to go. That's what you paid me for. You freaking paid for the tool. Wouldn't you want me to make sure that you're using it properly? Right? So any thoughts on that? Because I think sometimes that holds us back, wanting to be perfect. And man, what are they going to think about me if I follow up too soon? Or what are they going to think about me if I want it too bad? I don't know these people. They ain't never gonna see me. If I don't go on their podcast, they'll never meet me.
I think the only thing about wanting it too bad or exposing the one it too bad may come into play in a negotiation on how you say it. You know, if you don't just leverage out the whole negotiation and then you ask them what their budget is and they say it's something, okay, I'll take it. You know, that I don't think that method will work versus being a little bit more cooler about it. Negotiating a little bit more, try to get one more thing, let them counter. It may come down to that thing that you would accept it anyway, but how you say it could be a bit detrimental. I mean, if you're feeling overly eager about it.
Oh, well, I think that that's with anything, right? I mean, it still requires skill. Does that make sense? Barry Bonds, when he hit home runs, I never saw him swing so hard that the bat went into the outfield. Now, we know he was swinging super duper hard, but he was never out of control, right? So, skill is the ability to wield your power with control. Steph Curry can shoot from right in front of the rim, and he can shoot from 3/4 of the court on the other side. He's not using the same power on a layup as he's using at a half court buzzer beater, right? So it's understanding that you got to jab, you got to throw some hooks. And I use sports analogies because that's all I know. I don't watch any other TV besides sports, right? So you got to have different moves that work, right? Any other thoughts about character development and who we are, right? I'll say something else. Usually on camera, we got to turn it up 2 notches, right? Because the energy live feels different on camera. You may think you're doing a lot, but it don't come across as a lot on camera. It just comes across as you being normal. But other people, they too cool on camera, so it turns down the personality in who they are, right? Like I'm on here 3 times a day, but Edge and AJ know I can go 2 weeks without talking to nobody. I don't have to talk to the people in my house, and I'm totally fine with it. They be like, man, I ain't, when my family goes to visit Venezuela and goes to visit Vivi's family, she'd be like, dude, like I don't hear from you. I'm like, dude, I got stuff to do. Like at the house, you just bother me all day. I wouldn't talk to you at all if you didn't bother me. But that's just my personality. But other people say, man, you're on live all day. How you got the energy to do that? And you do meetings and you meet with 20 people a day. And I'm like, I could do none of it and I would still be fine. But so I think we have to turn on those things that make people that may be our strengths, right? So I don't know. Thoughts, feedback?
Yeah, I would say, and you mentioned it a little bit today. That is just, I guess, a reminder. People are on podcasts. You may be looking at the host, but the focus is really the audience. It's not them. No matter what they ask and what you talk about, your job is to keep them engaged. And
Yep.
yeah, so it's sometimes that gets lost because you're looking at this one person and think they're just the focus, but they aren't.
No, they're the person who invited you on and gave you the referral. So when you think of it from the perspective of the group referral, the host is just there to make sure that the audience gets what they want. Right? And when you think of it from that perspective, it's like, oh, this really ain't even about answering his question. It's about answering the question for everybody else who's watching. And how do I help them get to where they're trying to go? He's just speaking on their behalf, right? So even on these calls, when people ask questions, I'm very conscious to tell them, hey, when I say this, I'm not just answering it for you. I know you already understand this, but there's somebody watching who doesn't have the context, who hasn't been here every day for the last 3 weeks, right? So I got to teach it as if you've never heard it before, Chantel, even though you've heard it 13 times. We saw at the beginning of this, Bart has heard this call so many times, he could do the intro, right? So it's that repetition that I think that's important, but understanding who your audience is and making sure that they all can get better. So the reason why I wanted to go through that character thing is because I think we all get better by doing our own lives, right? I think people should go live at least once a week or invite people on to something that you're leading yourself at least once a week, even if it's 3 people like right now, right? Just get on there and have the conversation about what you're doing. Everybody can learn something from each other. Like if Bart wanted to really lead this conversation today, he could have. Why? Because he has a different perspective that I don't think about. If AJ wanted to come and talk about something, cool, man. Take it. 10 minutes. Tell us what your topic is. Let's go over it. Chantel, we got another 30 minutes. If you want to go over one of the chapters in your book, why not? You got to do it anyway, right? And if it's helpful, other people in our audience need that information anyway. It ain't, again, this bigger than Nino Brown. So if y'all got topics y'all want to cover, let me know. No different than when John talked about mind mapping last week, right? So,
Ryan, I was on this podcast today, and the podcaster, he got a message from a lawyer, and the lawyer, she wanted to know, was my framework, did I have my framework as a copyright?
Mhm.
And so it's something that I thought about a while ago, but like when I have my coaching classes, they all sign an agreement that that is proprietary information, and they don't share the information X, Y, and Z. But now that I'm starting to really disclose this on a broader form, like on a podcast or different things, is this something that you think I should do? Get the framework as a copyright?
I think that anytime, and I can't answer that because I'm not a lawyer, but
Right.
do I think you should protect your intellectual property? Yes.
Mhm.
Right. You know, do I think you should protect it? Sure. The issue a lot of times, and lawyers will tell you this, is that like I talk about 7 habits of highly effective people all the time. And I mentioned it's Covey's work. I never say, let me teach y'all my 7 habits of highly effective people. So even though it is a copyrighted work of his, it still can be referenced in my things.
Mhm.
I go over Russell Brunson's expert secret stuff all the time. I never say, let me show you the click funnels. I mean, not the speaker hub Epiphany Bridge. No, it's Russell Brunson stuff. So the person can still use your stuff with attribution. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So, I mean, again, I'm just a big fan that certain things like company names, I don't want anyone calling their company Speaker Hub, right? I don't want anyone doing that. It's just how I feel. Like that's our brand. I don't want them confusing us with anybody else, right? But I also have to understand that I'm an influencer. I have influence over 64,000 speakers on Speaker Hub and another 59,000 on LinkedIn. So I expect them to teach the flywheel. I expect them to talk about wanting to get on podcasts and things of that sort. Because if they didn't, all of my work was in vain. If Stephen Covey didn't want me talking about the 7 habits, why did he write the book and share it with us? Does that make sense? No. Did he want me to steal it and sell my own 7 habits? No, that's theft. Right. So just there's this gray area of influence and copyright, right? And we hear it all, man, you stealing my stuff. You stealing my style, man. I was the first one that folded my pants legs like that. It's like, man, get up out of here, man. Nobody care about that, right? Like, you mad because somebody wore a big white t-shirt? I was the one that had the band-aid on my face. I was Left Eye, it wasn't Nelly, right? Like, who is it? Like, you got all these different trends that where we're telling people, hey, this is cool, but don't you be cool. Hey, this is how you become successful. Chantel's still in my style. Look at her going on podcasts. What? AJ's still in my style. Look at him using PitchDB. That was mine first. What? Like, so I'm kind of this or that. I think you should protect the brand. I don't think people should be impersonating you or using your materials as your own. I mean, using your materials as their own. But I love when Bart wants the intro every time. Cool. I'm cool with it. Right? Because he could be doing something else with his 1 or 2 hours a day instead of coming on here trying to get better. That's my thoughts. So keep
No,
teaching.
that's fair. Yeah, that's it.
I thought about
Yeah, I mean,
copywriting something. So in every one of my forums, no matter what I'm in, whether it's the pre-podcast or the podcast, whatever, like you talked about a few minutes ago. I mean, my stories that I'll get to that story and everything I want to get to every single time. I don't care where we start, how they start. I'm going to get to it. That's why I'm on there. I know why I'm on there, and rather be the crime route. The crime route has turned into well, first of all, crime route turned into a show where the guy, I thought he'd be interested in the story. He didn't say nothing about the story. He was like, hey, I want you on this show. So, and that was within a day. And I was on this show where we were talking about the kidnapped the missing Pittsburgh student in Dom Rep last week. It was like in one day we were on this show. And I'm on there with 2 FBI agents just like that. But I get into my stuff every single time. So I have a quote that like floors all of them. And the quote is that no profession, level of education, ideology, or religion is above reproach. There is no profile. The insider threat is closer than you think. So after I tell the story where this soldier tried to kill, well, he did kill 2 people and wound 13 others, and not me, being a survivor of that, I tell them immediately that's my takeaway. This is immediately my takeaway. It doesn't matter who it is. Don't be fooled by the uniform. Don't be fooled by the name tag that says the branch of service. You can't be fooled by that. So we can't be fooled by religion. We can't be fooled by a uniform. We can't be fooled by the doctor. We can't be fooled by the lawyer. We can't be fooled by any of them. Stop putting them in a profile, because the country began to do that as I was writing the book. Different types of attacks, but they put them in this box over here that everyone has to look like or be from the people who flew the planes into the towers. You keep looking over there for that, then you get the white guy out of Wichita, Kansas, that's working with ISIS trying to blow up the airport. So that's what made me come up with that quote. So that thing that kind of floors them. So I just thought about copywriting that.
Yeah, and I mean, you can register your copyrights on copyright.gov, right? But proof of first use and things of that sort is really important. Again, I ain't a lawyer, so don't quote me on that. Get legal help with it. I mean, we try to protect all of our stuff. We even had someone on our team who was a lawyer, Liliana, I would ask questions about different things, and she understood, and she would help me to do certain things. So, yeah, I mean, again, this is your. It's no different than rap lyrics, right? Like, this is your intellectual property. If I start saying all the ladies in the place with style and grace, allow me to lace this lyrical, right? You like, that ain't Ron. Ron, who you steal that from? That is Notorious B.I.G., not Notorious R.O.N., right? And, that's a copyright theft. If I claim that to be me, I can freestyle. Like, you ain't freestyling, dude. Now, here's the great thing about it is that it's not that hard to be original, right? It may be hard to be good and original, but it ain't hard to be original. And most people don't want to do the hard work to be good and original. I found out something since we talking about hip hop. If you like Wu-Tang Clan, I don't know if you watching this, you ever heard of Wu-Tang Clan? And I found out this weekend that one of the guys, Ghostface Killer, was never rapping about anything. Like all of he said, I want to have a rap style where I make the words rhyme, but I'm talking about nothing. And people gonna think that I'm the smartest rapper ever. He was talking about absolutely nothing. And he confessed, I wasn't talking about nothing. I just wanted it to sound cool while I was rhyming. He says, I'm always impressed when people come up to me and be like, man, that was dope. When you said this, I knew what you was meaning. He said, I just be looking at him like, I wasn't talking about none of that. I was just rhyming words. I thought that was incredible, right? Because that's a form of art. People, there was another guy, Blueface. Blueface intentionally didn't rap on beat. Like, man, this dude is intentionally not on beat. How is that, right? But then we got Milli Vanilli. You know, they weren't the voice. They weren't anything. They were just the pretty face of the lyrics that they sung. You know? So, copyright, I think, is important, but also understanding that you're going to be imitated. People going to remix your stuff, especially now with ChatGPT. They can take the thing I was just showing you with the attractive character, and it comes up with something, the cool person. And it's like, wait a minute, that's the same thing as attractive character. And it's not backstory, it's origin story, right? And they just manipulate the same thing to try to make it an original work. But ain't nothing like the real thing, man. Ain't that what they said? Ain't nothing like the real thing, baby. That's it. There it is. Y'all know them songs? What y'all know about that? All right. Any other things you all want to cover today?
No, but when he asked me about that, it just really got me thinking, because it's like, okay, so the lawyer, is she trying to say that I'm using somebody else's material? Because this is my material. And he was like, well, no, she just wants to make sure that you're protected. She's seen a couple of people come on the podcast, and then somebody might get on IG and they might put the same type of framework out there, and now it's a battle. And she was saying how, like, a lot of people, they're not really content creators, they're just hackers, and so it'll just pretty much protect me. And a lot of time when I am on social media, I may not put that level of information on there just because I don't want somebody to take it. But just kind of thinking about that, branching out, I mean, it's only $47, if that, to go ahead and get it copywritten. But that's not my only framework. That's just the one I introduced on that platform. I have like 4 other frameworks, so I'm thinking maybe I should just go ahead and get that, so that can be my IP.
Well, in boxing, they always say protect yourself at all times, right? But it is your IP. If it's in your book already, it's already documented that you have it and that it's yours. The other side of it is that you got to remember the lawyer is doing her job. She's trying to get a new client, right? So she's selling at the same time, right? So her interest is in your best interest, right? So you got to remember that too, right?
She trying to join the team.
Well, I think lawyers win by they sell fear. In order to be a lawyer, you need to be good at selling fear and doubt, right? So it's beyond a reasonable doubt is how you get acquitted, right? But the way that they get you is seeding doubt at the beginning. Man, you may want to protect yourself. I done seen a lot of people, and look, I tell people all the time, I will give you the code to Speaker Hub. I don't think you got the heart to try to build it. Like, the code ain't what makes this thing works. It ain't. There's a lot of work to make this thing go. You can take the code and go ahead and do it. Tesla, you ever heard of Tesla? You heard of the Tesla car, Chantel?
Yeah.
Look at this. Look at this. In 2014, what Tesla do?
Announced it would open source its patents.
What else? Keep going.
Pledging not to sue anyone using its technology for electric vehicles in good faith, aiming to accelerate the EVs industry advancement.
How many of them didn't help? Doesn't use their technology? None of them. They built their own. Now we're gonna do our own electric plugs. Now that you buy a Chevy car, you can't even plug it in because they don't want to use the Tesla plug. He made it open so everybody can use it. You buy Audi, you got to get the special Audi plug. They ain't got enough electric stations for Audis. Do you see what I mean? So you can make all your stuff available. It is hard work to compete.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know, AJ will tell you, with most of my friends, I've never charged them for anything. AJ bought my stuff before we were friends, right? But yo, man, I need emails. Cool. Here's access to my data company. Here's a login. Get as many emails as you want, right? Guess what they still do? Nothing. Am I lying, AJ? They do absolutely nothing. So it ain't got nothing to do. At the end of the day, business is run by heart. The person with the most heart, they can have the worst tools. They gonna win if they're determined to win. You can give the other person all the tools in the world. They're gonna have an excuse. I watched a video that said, it was a guy, he was a football coach, and he talked about how there are people that are hungry and there are people that want something to eat. And he said, the people that are hungry, they ain't got no food in the house, right? And they willing to go out there and do whatever they need to do to find something to eat. Then there's the kid who has the basketball hoop and everything. He got all the trainers and everything. He got food in the house. He just don't know what he wants to eat. He said the pro sports that are controlled by mostly African Americans are full of the dogs that didn't have food, that was willing to eat anything to get to where they wanted to go. It wasn't the kid that, oh, I'm just waiting on somebody to cook for me. He was like, we can see that in you right from the beginning. And I'm a firm believer of that. Because I watch it all the time. People with all of the opportunity. All you got to do, let me say this, and I'll end on this. The Americans in the worst position are better than 90% of the world. The Americans that are in the worst position are better than 90% of the world. Most countries, minimum wage is $300, $400 a month, right? And they got to pay the same price for iPhones. They got to pay the same price for Jordans and Nikes. Nike ain't lowering their prices, even though it's in a country where person may make $500 a month. They still want them $100 for them Jordans, $200, right? So the reason why I bring that up is we don't realize how good we got it. And usually until you go somewhere else, you're like, oh, dude, I stopped saying I was from the hood. I show the photos to Americans, but no, I'm okay. I was very fortunate, right? Because I've seen I used to live in a country, I won't say the name of it. And while I was in that country, I went to visit some friends. And they was like, yeah, come on out. Y'all should come out here and hang out for the weekend. And I was like, cool. This was about 8 years ago, like 2016, Easter weekend. I still remember it. And we go out there and I'm like, oh, cool. They got a farm and everything. I'm like, I want some water. It was like, oh, no. You got to go. We got to get bottled water. We got a stream in the back that we use. He had to pull a bucket, take it in to wash dishes, fill up the bucket over the thing for the shower to work. The windows didn't have glass in it. It just had bars. There was no air conditioning. I know you see these folks at the mall, it's a normal thing, but they were just as happy. But this was their living condition. And I thought I had it bad. And I'm like, oh shoot. Yeah, let me just go and shut up. Let me just be respectful. Why? Because it had nothing to do with their character. Do you see what I mean? Like the amount of money you have don't make you a decent person. It actually can make you an asshole sometimes, right? But what I learned was that there's levels to everything, right? There's levels to everything, and everybody has a reason to not do something. The person whose place I was at, they're now a lawyer that works with the president of the country, right? They've bettered themselves. They've gone through law school, raised kids as a single parent, all of these things. And I'm like, oh, yeah. Ain't no excuse. If you want it, you're going to get it. That's all I wanted to say. So, Chantel, they can steal your stuff. They can't steal your heart. They can't steal your drive. They can't, look, let me say it this way, right? I recognized what Chantel was doing. And she explained to me, hey, I'm trying to get this thing off the ground, making a transition. Cool, what you need? Let me just give you a bunch of pitches so you can just go forward. And no, you think I'm not watching? I'm like, oh, wait a minute. She's like not playing with these things. She's sending them out. She's on this thing this week, this thing this week, on the leaderboard for this, for that. And I'm like, and there are people who have had accounts with us for years and haven't sent one email. They got the same tool. They do. But not the same battery in their back. So, as they say, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And I think sometimes we just got it too easy, man. So, but I don't know. They're gonna be mad at me for saying that, but it's just the truth. We made 250 accounts available for a challenge recently. I won't say which one. We do a bunch of challenges with different people, so this isn't about any particular challenge, but we gave 250 30-day trials away. 12 people sent pitches in 30 days. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I mean, 250 of them had accounts for 30 days. They could get any level, which is they could get the $500 level, right? And 12 of them sent an email. The lowest one sent 3. The highest person sent 70 something in 30 days. They had access to unlimited whatever they want for 30 days. So not a criticism of them. If you're watching this, I'm not being critical. I'm just saying we have to learn to seize the opportunities, right? If you, there's a great story of a guy who's on a horse and he's riding his horse and he hears somebody pull up behind him on another horse and they come up to him, they put a sword to the back of his head and they said, get off your horse, we're gonna cut your head off. He's nervous. He gets off of his horse and he gets down. They said, hey, reach down. You're gonna reach down, you're gonna feel some rocks. Grab 2 handfuls of rocks and put them in your pocket so tight that you can't walk. And he like, man, I can't do that. If I put these rocks in my pocket where I can't walk, I ain't gonna be able to move and it's gonna hurt while I'm walking. Well, he put them in his pocket. He faked like he couldn't walk. And they said, all right, we're gonna take your horse and I want you to start walking with all them rocks in your pocket. Tomorrow, you're gonna be both grateful and equally regretful that this happened to you. He was like, okay. So he get to walking. And eventually the sun's coming up. And he's like, I guess they left because they went the other direction. His life wasn't on the line. He goes to start digging in his pockets to take out the rocks. And every time he reached his hand in his pockets, it was a handful of diamonds. And he was happy that he had some diamonds, but he was regretful he didn't grab more, right? And that's life. It is life. Some people, you give them pitches and they send them. I'm going, right? Some other folks said, man, I didn't miss my water until, what did it say? Yeah, that's it. Exactly, right? But then it always becomes someone else's fault, right? Man, they should have told me these was diamonds. Like, man, they told me these was diamonds. But nah, dude, that's not how life works. You don't always understand what's on the other side of it. You never know who's watching your shows, Chantel. And it may not be this one. It may be 6 months from now. It may be from the habits you're developing now. You just never know. I watched this kid. I want to see if I can bring him up. He plays baseball in the Dominican Republic, right? Let me see if I can bring him up here. This kid is incredible. Dominican kid. No, he's in Africa. African kid playing baseball, gets equipment. Let me see, what's his name? 1 second. Let me see what this kid's name. He's a back catcher. You know what I'm talking about? This dude right here. Boy, you talk about, whoa, look at this kid. This kid is incredible. This dude.
Oh, wow.
Right? But that's not the only one though. I want to Kasumba Dennis. This dude is incredible. Watch some of his trainings. He's learning, he's catching raw eggs to have a soft hand. How incredible is that? Right? But that's some of his stuff. But you got to see him. Look, watch this. He got this thing where he throw bricks. I've seen him catch bricks and throw them.
Oh, wow.
I don't want to hear nothing. You see what I mean? Like, right? I mean, he's catching bricks. He's working on.
Using anything possible gained national attention and would eventually make his way stateside. Kasumba, a catcher, was often seen using tires to complete workouts, would throw bricks while catching, and was often seen working out in muddy conditions while in the pouring rain. An attorney in Atlanta was inspired by Kasumba's story and created a GoFundMe which raised over $6,000, landing the righty new catcher's gear and funds to eventually land a visa to make his way to the state. Sean Campbell, the head of the MLB Draft League, which is composed of players trying to raise their draft stock, invited Kasumba to play in the league where he played for the Frederick Keys. Dennis Kasumba played in the league in both 2023 and 2024, playing in 20 games between both years, and did not record a hit in 33 at-bats, striking out 22 times. Surprisingly, he transitioned well to catching fastballs in the mid to upper 90s and was better than expected on the defensive side. While in the draft league this year, Kasumba received the surprise of a lifetime as he met his hero Royals catcher Salvador Perez at the All-Star game. The player, Kasumba said, inspired him to even pick up a baseball. Perez gifted Kasumba brand new catcher's gear, and from the looks of it, the now 21-year-old is back home continuing to work on eventually one day getting a chance to pursue his dream. This Ugandan...
Now, why do I share that? Here's the thing. Did he end up making it to the MLB? Nah, he couldn't hit. But you know we never saw? We never saw him practice hitting.
And nobody to throw the ball to. Nobody throwing the ball. Yeah.
He never practiced hitting, but he could catch. They was like, dude, he could catch 90-some miles per hour balls. Why? Because that's what he was practicing all the time, catching and throwing, right? But you know how many people in the States that have access to batting cages won't go to them? right? They got access to all the stuff and they just won't go, right? So high five to you guys for using the tools that are at hand. They may seem like nothing right now, but it ain't the tool, it's the effort. It's the habit and the effort. The calls that I do, again, I ain't no different than anybody else, man. I don't try to purport to be, but Ange remembers the nights when I would drive Uber for 14 hours and be at the office the next morning at 8, right? Like, just work and the effort pays off. So, just do the work. You'll be fine. It may not look like you're making progress right now, but that's how all soldiers started off. That, nobody goes into the military and goes straight to colonel. They all got to go through boot camp. And then you do the same, eating the same food in mess hall and getting screamed at the same ways. But certain people go and become Army Rangers. Some people go and become Navy SEALs and, Delta Force and all the other different elite forces that are out there. But it starts with the fundamentals. So high five to the fundamentals. I don't really have anything else to talk about today, but I think it's good to, since we were talking about the attractive character, to kind of end on things that build character, and it's just the work. Any other questions before we go? Cool. Good to see everybody. Keep sending them daggone pictures. AJ, keep getting on podcast. Chantel, keep being a great example to everybody else. Keep showing them. Look, it's just work. All right. I'll let y'all go, man. I'm gonna go hang out with my family. Peace.